We're live from STS Studios in Jonesboro, Arkansas for an episode of Was It Really That Good? And I have my co-host, Gene Jackson. How the hell is it going, Gene?
Going well, man. Going well. You're two shows in a row on getting the title right.
I think that's three,
so,
Gene. Come on,
three.
Give me credit. Three.
Hell yeah. Killing it.
I'll just tell you I cheat. I put it right up here in the right-hand corner, and it says, was it really that good? So, yeah. How's it going, man?
Oh, it's going good, man. Still quarantined for the most part, working at home, staying at home. I sneak out and get groceries about once a week, and me and Rosie slide over to Decatur or somewhere and maybe go get some food. But other than that, man, I'm staying in and getting fatter. I've started working out the last few weeks, so now I'm starting to shed a little bit of weight. So hopefully,
yeah. I said I gave myself the front of August. I've got to get back because that's all I do is eat and sleep. So there you go. We're going to do something a little different. We were doing Memphis last month, and we got to talking, and we said, what the hell, let's do something like we did with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, and we're going to do Was It Really That Good? And we're just going to take someone that we both liked. I liked a lot as a kid, Dream Machine, Troy Graham from Memphis Wrestling. What's the first thing you think of when you hear that name?
Well, around 99, I guess it was, I worked 4 or 5 different shows with Dream Machine. There's some funny stories to go with those. We'll save some of those for later. But the first time I met him was at a show in Columbus. He rode down in West Memphis, Arkansas was the first time. Later, he came to Columbus with Don Bass, and he also came to Corinth with Don Bass. But the first time I met him was in West Memphis at an armory, a show at the armory there for the Cooks. Some people listening will know who they are. Mike. And Lee Cook.
Yeah. I worked for Mike Cook in Malden, Missouri. So yeah.
And so that was an interesting experience. He was not the guy that I remembered from television, but that is what's ingrained in my mind. Prior to that meeting, the first thing that popped in my mind was his return to Memphis. The last video clip you sent me that we watched for this episode, I distinctly remember watching that at my friend Mark's house down in Starkville, Mississippi. And it just, I don't know, it really stood out, that Troy Graham was just one of those old school guys from the 80s, and he still was Dream Machine that day when he walked out on TV. I guess that was around 94 or 5, somewhere in there.
Yeah. When he did that, the deal about, I grew up, I'm a little bit older than you, as we've talked about, and so I remember one of the biggest angles of probably, maybe the biggest angle ever, and in Memphis Wrestling that actually created Jimmy Hart as a manager, when Jerry Lawler broke his leg playing touch football. So, can you imagine if you're a Jerry Jarrett in this position?
Oh my God. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine. Your golden goose breaks his leg playing touch football.
Yeah, I mean, just think about, and it was by Jerry Calhoun, the referee.
The referee.
And they didn't kayfabe. It's like it was in a newspaper, and there was all kinds of stuff. Lawler was gone for 11 months. Came back a couple of times with the cast on, which I didn't remember that, but he actually came back a couple of times with cast on. Scott Bowden actually tells a story in one of his articles about how Jerry Jarrett picked this guy, Troy Graham, under the mask to become the next opponent for Jerry Lawler when he returned. Because, number one, we had, he'd already wrestled Valiant. He'd already wrestled, all these other guys he'd already wrestled, so they wanted someone new.
Yep.
Did you...
that was before my time, but I do remember once I got into tape trading, my first order of business was get as much older Memphis stuff as I could get. So I remember seeing all that and the tapes from tape trading, and of course hearing about it in shoot interviews of different people and things like that. But I remember the infamous story of allegedly Jerry Lawler, punching Jimmy Hart in the face for real for going out there making that promo about what do you do with a horse with a broken leg and all that kind of stuff, which turned Jimmy heel and all that.
Yeah, Lawler had punched a couple people. He had punched Heyman at one time, broke his jaw, and I knew Hart had his jaw broke. But apparently, and as a kid, we're looking at 14 when all this happened. So when they brought Dream Machine in, and I kind of thought maybe it was Dusty Rhodes at first, because that's what Jarrett wanted people to think. Bowden says he was a mix between Dusty Rhodes, Superstar Graham, and a TV evangelist. I love that.
Nailed it. That's perfect.
He was a great talker. We're going to put some, in between commercials, we'll put an interview or two where you'll just hear his, what I call his rap.
What in the Sam Hill is this, Dream?
TCB, taking care of business. Graveyard digging the coffin, buying a long time, weeping in the family crying, because all the king's horses and all the king's men can't put the king back together again, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, put all that garbage out. And what the Sam Hill you mean?
Well, I'm trying to tell you, if you'll shut up long enough before I can tell you, let me tell you something. Every time it come down the pike, every time something took place, title shots, championship matches, it's always Lawler and Dundee. But this man right here give me the greatest chance of all to be on top right off the bat against Jerry Lawler. And you know one other thing, this right here bring it all down to a screeching halt, if you know what I'm talking about, baby. Because 10,000 people.
He was always a barbed wire fence, blah, blah, blah. I loved the Dream Machine. I always loved him, listening to him talk. Loved the gimmick. And then when we went back and watched some of the stuff, he was believable. And even under this kind of a goofy mask, but his mask was showing his beard and everything, which was something different for me.
Yeah, that's one of the things that really sticks out to me about about him wearing the mask is, half his face is kind of hanging out of the mask, kind of like Shanghai Pierce in later years in WCW.
Yeah, he wrestled as Troy T. Tyler. I didn't even try to look for any of that stuff, but he was backstage and he was going through his spiel, and Jarrett said, we're going to usually put the mask on, and just to give you an idea how bad the Mid-South Coliseum was doing, until that night, Jerry Lawler made his return to go against the Dream Machine. They had less than 4,000 people in the arena for like 5 weeks in a row. Lawler comes back against the Dream Machine and apparently drew money all around the different towns, Evansville, Louisville, Lexington. They did it everywhere, and it did 11,000 people in the Mid-South Coliseum.
and for some people listening now, the younger folks, to think that people were going home crying because the Coliseum only drew 4,000 people, where now that would be cause for celebration, and it'd be the biggest crowd anybody drew locally in 30 years.
Yeah, they did. The thing about it is that people just don't realize, and they weren't always 11,000 people, and they weren't, but they averaged about, I would think, overall 8,000 or 9,000 people on a regular basis, at least about 8,000 at the low point, when they would, but some of the stuff they were doing when Lawler was gone, there was nobody that could jump into his place. There was just nobody. They had Ellering out there as the new king and all that stuff, and then Dundee was main event, and there was a lot of stuff going on in that year, but there was nothing that they could do to bring it up. They brought in the Dream Machine. Dream Machine did his little rap. Jimmy Hart bringing in different people, but the Dream Machine was his first person to bring in, and they drew tons of money. And like I said, I just love the Dream Machine during those interviews and coming doing that. And you mentioned just for a minute, and we'll go into that about the when he got a little bit older and we brought him back. He came back in, but did you get a chance to see the interview when and it is so good when he's feuding against Dutch Mantell? It's the chicken suit interview.
Yes. I watched that one a couple of times, actually.
Well, he comes out, they say they got Dutch Mantell, and he's begging to be in the first family, and they bring out this guy in a chicken suit, and they say it's Dutch Mantell.
And he chokes him down, and Lance is like, "Oh, come on, Troy, or come on, Dream Machine," and yeah, close Classic Memphis right there, I tell you.
And I haven't seen anyone ever do that interview. Did anyone go back and do something like that?
You know, Blaylock over the years has done a lot of stuff with chicken suits, but it's always been, loser has to wear it. Like, I don't know that anyone's ever. We did an angle in Corinth one time where if me and Neil lost, I was supposed to wear a chicken suit, and we stuck somebody else in the chicken suit. Like, supposedly I'm holding finger quotes like you can see it, came out, and as the baby faces were pointing and mocking me and all that, me and Neil come out and jumped from behind and beat them down. But never where you implied that it was a baby face under there and you beat them and slap them around and harass them, implying it's the baby face when it's really not.
I thought it was all about the chicken suit. I think I remember them putting heart in the chicken suits, but this led to something where they actually tarred and feathered Dream Machine.
Yeah.
So that's where that was going. And I never got that. What was the big deal about the tar and feather? I just never got that. Why? I'll have to go back and do some more research, but where the hell did somebody sit down and say, you know what, here's what we need to do to the heel. We need to do the babyface first. We'll jump in with tar and feathering. What? I don't get it.
Here's what Cornette said about
okay,
in a
all right,
one time, somebody asked Cornette, where did the concept of tar and feather come from? And this may not be the best time to talk about it in light of everything that's going on, but they said back way back when that was something they used to do to black people, not in the slavery days, more recent than that. But white people would take them out in the town square and tar and feather them to humiliate them and send a message to the black community. And that's why that they used them so frequently in Louisiana, and that's why they tarred and feathered JYD a couple of times, was supposedly to play off of that.
I did not know that. That is crazy. That just the idea that they would in wrestling. Well, you know how wrestling is, but to me, I would more do the chicken suit than I would the tar and feather thing. I don't want to clean up any of that shit, but we never did anything like that. That would be the fun. All right, guys, we're gonna take a quick commercial break, and we're gonna be right back, and we're gonna answer: was it really that good for Dream Machine Troy Graham?
Lala, you will be tarred and feathered! You will be tarred and feathered! I'll kill you, Lala! Nobody makes me look like a cartoon!
Jimmy Hart, the Dream Machine, he's fired. $1,000 right here. You'll pay it or you won't wrestle here today and tomorrow and no other time.
Okay, Eddie, okay.
Lance, I'm sorry.
I'm not paying you nothing, anybody!
Just take it
Hell with you! I'm not paying you nothing! Okay, I'm not paying you.
And we're going to put some videos up on YouTube, and we're going to show you some of the stuff we watched and show you why. And I, as I talk, you guys are probably going to know what I'm going to think about the Dream Machine. Also, we want to thank our sponsors coming out of that commercial. Gee, why don't you just go ahead, tell us some Dream Machine stories before we go into Dream Machine coming back. And then I got a quote from Randy Hills, promoter of Memphis Wrestling, talking about the Dream Machine. So you tell us the Dream Machine story.
Okay, so the first time I met Dream Machine, when we went to the show in West Memphis, and it was me and Sammy Hall and a van load of guys that came from Mississippi up there, to, like I said, to work for the Cooks. And this was, like I say, either late 98, early 99, somewhere in there. And so we get there. Don Bass is on the card. Doug Gilbert's on the card. Blade Boudreaux, I think, was on the card. And Dream Machine is just there hanging out. Now, I didn't immediately recognize the Dream Machine because he was wearing old lady glasses like the mother on the Golden Girls wore. He's wearing these
right.
not for irony. He's just wearing them to see, apparently. He's got a teardrop tattooed on his face, and he is clearly not as lucid as he once had been. And he's not booked in a match, but he's walking around the dressing room asking people, hey, you got some knee pads? Hey, you got some knee pads? And everybody's telling him no. And so a little bit of time passes, and Don Bass goes to get dressed for his match, and he's digging through his bag, Dream Machine had went outside to smoke, and when he comes back in, do you remember the knee pads that Don Bass used to have that had the little cartoon character of him on the knee pad, and it said Outlaw Don Bass?
Yeah.
Dream Machine comes in wearing those knee pads.
What the hell?
And so Don Bass goes, Dream, did you get those out of my bag? No, baby, I've been had these. Don Bass said, Dream, give me back my knee pads. He said, man, these my knee pads. I've been had these knee pads. And Bass like, God damn it, Dream, they got my picture on them. Dream looks down and goes, oh, my bad. And he starts pulling them off. So that's not where the story ends, though. So Doug Gilbert goes out there and has a match with somebody. I don't remember who. I think it might have been the Moondog Rover guy that used to run around that area. But anyway, Doug got busted open pretty good. They had like a street fight. Well, you remember that T-shirt Doug used to have, the Dangerous Doug Gilbert T-shirt that he'd always wear?
Right.
And sold at the matches. Well, he comes through the dressing room, and this T-shirt is just covered in blood. Face is covered in blood. T-shirt's covered in blood. He doesn't get 4 steps into the dressing room door. Dream Machine walks up and goes, Dougie, I want that shirt, baby. And Doug goes, oh, Dream, I got some clean ones in my truck, man. I'll get you a new one. He goes, nah, I want that shirt. And Doug goes, man, I got blood all over this thing, man. I'll get you a brand new one. The sleeves are cut off. I'll get you a brand new. Dougie, I want that shirt, baby. So Doug Gilbert takes this blood-covered shirt off. Dream Machine takes it from him and immediately puts it on over the clothes he's wearing and walked around the rest of the night in this blood-covered shirt that he demanded from Doug Gilbert in the match he just come out of. And that's my first time I met Troy Graham, the Dream Machine.
Oh, my God, yes. I reached out to Bo James, who was on a recent episode, and I was trying to figure out, and me and you had talked about this on the B side, about how he lost his mask or everything. No one can remember him losing his mask. He came out as one of the New York Dolls to feud with they actually feuded with one of the first feuds with the Fabs. And so no one remembers him losing his mask, and Bo actually says, I don't remember how he lost his mask. And yeah, he sued Memphis Wrestling when he broke his leg. He said, I enjoyed his work. Great interview. Nuttier than an old outhouse rat. Heavy on drugs. So there you go. So that might explain some stuff right there on what Bo said. I love that. Nuttier than an old outhouse rat. And my buddy Lance will love that because I've heard that before. And I know he hadn't heard that. So did you ever, I didn't ever find out, it was just almost a sudden he comes out as Troy Graham. We know and then he's with the Bruise Brothers later on. At one point he tags with Dundee when he's under the mask.
Oh, Daddy, we're going to get on that big white bird. We're going to get on that big white bird and fly south. You know, you got to go south for that southern loving, but Memphis, Tennessee is always a superstar in the dreams. Home away from home. You know, I'm going to get down on that beach. I've got me a new pair of jogging trunks, and I'm going to get me a lot of sun. I'm going to get me a lot of sun right, nothing but the whites of my eyes. Nothing but the whites of my eyes. I might even shave my beard off and get me a good tan around here, but you know, it's a lot of foolishness. I want to get these giant turkeys right out here in the ring today. Get them right out here in the ring today, and I guarantee the belt's on the line, and we're going to be moving, grooving, shucking, and jiving. Superstar, let's get it on. Let's get it on, baby. Okay, fine. There you go.
But then when he came back and did the New York Dolls and then the Bruise Brothers, he was Troy Graham, and then he was Dream Machine Troy. We all knew he was Dream Machine Troy Graham.
Yeah, I think that was just one of those things where there wasn't a reveal. It was just kind of like he was Dream Machine, and then he was Troy Graham in those tag teams, and then he turns back up with the mask, but he still talks the same. And I think it's just one of those, kind of like the Mr. Olympia Jerry Stubbs thing. It's just like, it's just something people know, but there never was like a, oh God, look, it's Troy Graham, the Dream Machine. You know, it's just.
Yeah, he did an angle where we've talked about how Memphis Wrestling always brought about somebody that was so tough. When he tagged with Lawler, ended up turning against Lawler, and when he walks out that day, he's got his mask on. Actually takes it off during the interview. And him and Lawler have a hell of a feud during that. There was one part of the interview where Troy is just giving Lawler hell, and he says, "I'm going to whip you like your dead daddy."
Yes, and that's what sets Lawler off.
I could not believe that. I don't remember that, but I could not believe him saying, "Whip you like your dead daddy."
I don't know why that promo stands out to me so much, but I guess it's because Jimmy Hart called on the phone initially, which was odd for the time. He was in WCW or whatever, and then Dream come out there, and he's still at that point. I don't think the drugs had took hold, or had cleaned up or something, because he sounded like his old self, and he's trying to talk Lawler into letting him be his partner. I hang out where they get shot and stabbed. I'm low life and all this shit. And I don't know, that promo. I had not seen it again since then, until you sent me the link the other day. And when I saw the link, I was like, oh my God, I remember this promo like it was yesterday. And I turned it on, and I could almost say it along with him. But it was a lot of fun to watch that again.
You believed him. He was like, "Hey, yeah, Dream's going to help you, Jerry. He's going to help you. Go ahead, do it." And as we know, he eventually turns and then he gets on the microphone right before, and I love this, right before a match at the Coliseum with Lawler, and he just talks Lawler down like Lawler's a dog, and just everything he says about him, and the crowd goes from almost quiet, and it just keeps getting louder. They wrestle, and Lawler beats the fuck out of Dream Machine. This is one of those matches where it's the total opposite of a Jerry Lawler match. It's usually Lawler taking the heat. Well, it was all Lawler. It was all Lawler. He's busted wide open. Dream ends up pinning him with one move with a foreign object, and that's the only thing I remember the Dream getting in the match. Dream does an interview, and Scott talked about this. Apparently, Dream Machine backstage took his fist and pounded his face as hard as he could so he could make it bleed more, while he did an interview talking about, fighting Lawler again the next Monday night. So, yeah, that's the kind of guy he was. And like I said, at that point, he had all like gazillion tattoos. Which was just like, he went from being, maybe one tattoo to, you could see they were all over his body. And he came out looked like a workout suit with those Zubas, in a cut t-shirt is what he was always wearing. All right, tell me another story. Tell me another Dream Machine story.
Okay, so the next time I see Dream Machine, he shows up at a Rodney Grimes show in Columbus, Mississippi. And so, me and Kilgore, and I think Tony Dabbs, and Bojangles was there, and then a lot of the CWA regulars, Don Bass, Soul Taker, so on and so forth. But one guy who was there who wasn't normally there is a guy that Sammy Hall trained. His name was Ricky Franks. Really nerdy guy, a guy you wouldn't think would even watch wrestling, much less try to be a wrestler. Just the band geek type of guy that just does not strike you as somebody who would wrestle. And he was just always awkward in the dressing room. And I don't know that he had ever watched anything besides like WWF in his whole life. He knew, 80s WWF people, but like he didn't know anything about Memphis, he didn't know anything about Continental. When me and Kilgore would sit around and talk about this stuff, he was just completely lost. So even though Dream Machine was clearly drugged out of his mind and had seen better days, guys like me and Kilgore and Josh and Tony, we knew who he was and we remembered him and we showed him respect, at whether he deserved it at that point or not. So he comes in the dressing room and he's got the old lady glasses on, and this time he's wearing a shirt that looks, I'm pretty sure was a blouse. It had flowers on it, and it had a big. Well, no, I'm not saying
that kind of shirt. He can. Now,
I'm not saying a Hawaiian shirt, and I'm not saying it had a big like a pearl at the top, like one of those big buttons at the like I'm quite sure whatever grandma he took those glasses from, he took her damn blouse as well. But anyway, bell bottom looking pants on, just in rough shape. So Ricky is sitting there drinking a Dr. Pepper, and so Dream Machine walks in and he goes, "Hey, let me get a sip of that Dr. Pepper.
Oh, God.
And Ricky's response was, ew, no. Kilgore look at each other like, Dream's finna stab this motherfucker to death right in front of us. And so Dream looks at him, he goes, you know who the fuck I am? And he goes, no, I have no idea who you are. He goes, are you a wrestler? And he starts turning beet red. He's like, boy, I've been to prison. I've
Oh, God.
killed guys bigger and badder than you. He said, give me that damn Dr. Pepper. And Ricky goes, no, this is my drink. And he pulls it back. And Dream just looks stumped. And so I had a Sprite sitting there. I'm like, you like Sprite? I hadn't even opened it yet. I was like, you like Sprite, Dream? He's like, yeah, I like Sprite. I go, here you go, buddy. You can have my drink. And he's like, oh, thank you, brother. Thank you. And he tried to hug me. I'm like, oh, man, I'm cool. Just, there you go. And so he walks away. And as soon as he walks out of the room, Kilgore starts laughing. He's like, that laugh Kilgore had. He's like, Gene just saved your fucking life, Ricky. I'm pretty sure he was going to shank your ass right here in front of all of us. And Ricky goes, well, who the hell let the homeless guy in the damn dressing room? And so we had to sit and explain to him who he was. And then once we did, he's like, well, I wasn't going to share my drink with him. I'm like, well, just fucking give it to him. What'd you pay, $1 for it? I'm like, the guy obviously needed it worse than you did. And he's like, I ain't giving him shit. But just such a bizarre, just one of the weirdest encounter I've ever watched, along with him asking Doug for his bloody T-shirt. But this one was even more so because Ricky genuinely just thought he was some homeless dude that had just strolled into the building and was asking for a sip of his drink. But
crazy. That's talk about he died of a heart attack, which I remember everyone saying is probably because of all the drug use. And like you said, later on it seemed to get worse. I talked to Randy Hales. I reached out to Randy, Jerry Lawler, Brandon Baxter, Jerry Jarrett, just to see if we could get anything people would say. Randy was the only one that reached back to talk about the Dream Machine. He said, I liked him always until 1994. He said he was fucked up all the time and not reliable. In the Power Pro days, he walked up to me in a parking lot and went in and wanted to do a live interview on Power Pro. And he wanted to say hi to his grandma. And he said, wow. I said no. I couldn't give him a live mic in the shape he was in. Offered to do a recorded one, but he wanted it live. And Randy said, probably for something no good. Lawler pulled up later, and Dream asked him. And he told Dream to ask me, and he said he already had. So he said, Lawler said, you got your answer, get out of here, kind of thing. And that was one of the times. And he, as we talked just a little bit, he actually broke his leg and tried to sue Memphis Wrestling because he said it was the ring. He fell in the ring and broke his leg, and it was their fault.
I've been in some rings that people probably need sued if anybody broke their leg in them, but
Yep, okay.
Old Blue Moon of Kentucky, keep on shining. Jerry Lawler, do not show up because 275 pounds of not your blue-eyed, sugar-coated, sweet-loving, hugging soul. One blue-eyed honky coming to Louisville, Kentucky, home of the Kentucky Derby, home of Loretta Lynn, but it's also the home of the black lung. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling all the people, Jerry Lawler, you're going to have 11 long more months when I sit down on that leg. Southern Fried Crunch, Kentucky, Louisville. Do not show up, Jerry Lawler, because I'm going to be shucking, jiving, moving the groove, and call your daddy, call your mama, call your auntie. Tell them, say, please don't let me go up there because you ain't doing nothing but signing your death warrant, boy. Boy, play with Tarzan. Tarzan died. She went to church, got sanctified. You better go to church and get sanctified because the dream going to be shucking and jiving, plus 4-5, putting knots on your head faster than you can rub them, Jerry Lawler.
Well, you're the Dream Machine. He makes a lot of conversation. It'll take more than that to take care of the team.
So that would have been the era. That would have been the same time frame then that I was seeing him at these shows around that time that he asked Randy to be on Power Pro, because that was in 99, 2000, right around that time. And he was just showing up. But some of the guys that lived there around Memphis, and I can't remember who told me this, if it was Derek or who it was, but they said they're within a year or two of him dying, that you would just see him out just like walking the streets in Memphis, like asking people for money and stuff, and standing at the corner with like a coffee can and shit like that, which is just so, I mean, a guy who main evented the mid-size, I mean, that kind of stuff it resonates with me. Like, here's a guy who main evented at the Mid-South Coliseum. Thousands of people paid money to buy a ticket to watch this man perform, and he is reduced in his, near the end of his life to begging for money, walking the streets of Memphis. That's sad. I mean, I know it's from his own doing. I'm not saying anybody owed him anything.
No. I know what you're saying. It is sad. Yeah, it's the same thing with all these guys that have no money.
Yeah.
Some of these guys that worked, that still have to work or do stuff that absolutely had any money. We talked about just a bunch of them. Bobby Eaton's one of them. He'll be telling you he gave money away, and things like that. Yeah. The money that they were making. All right, so he died. Died in March the 7th, 2002, of apparent heart attack. And he worked different names, like I said, but I always was a fan of him growing up, and sometimes when you go back, as we've learned, stuff just isn't as good as it was. But I want to ask you, Troy Graham, the Dream Machine, was it really that good?
In his era, I would say yes. I think for the time that he was in, I think he was really that good. And it makes me sad that I wasn't alive back then, because if I could have lived in the era where you could get by on walking and talking and not really having to do a lot, I could have maybe been a star.
Yeah. He was not a great worker by any means, but he wasn't horrible. He was a brawler. That's pretty much all he did. Sold for Lawler in the big matches, but loved his jive, is what they call it. Jive.
Memphis was built on talking them in the building and then having a good brawl when they got there. If you go down the list of who was great workers as far as wrestling in Memphis, you could probably count most of them on like one hand, two at the most. I mean, Memphis was built on guys who could talk on that live TV and convince you that there was a hell of a fight that you need to come see, and then can deliver at least on the fight aspect of it with the brawling come Monday night. So I think he was tailor-made for the Memphis promotion and a great opponent for Lawler.
I agree 100%, and I have to agree with you. I think he was that good. If you go back and watch the stuff, he's exactly like you said, tailor-made. I'm still a huge fan of the Dream Machine. I forget a lot of stuff that he was such. You always think of Dundee. You always think of Idol and Rich, but this guy was just as important in the Memphis wrestling history when it came to Lawler as those guys was, and I just. Big fan, and I'm glad I went back and I enjoyed something again, like we did last month, instead of going back and saying, "Oh man, this crap sucked."
Yeah.
All right, guys, same bad time, same bad channel on the best little wrestling podcast in the business. Be there, and as everyone knows, and G knows because he's been on here 100 times, I love my mama. Thank you, G.
Indeed. Thank you.